the content, and obviously cut and paste the wrong content there. My apologies for that. We still have some people joining us, so we'll start the webinar shortly. This is Shane Preston. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Data Transformed, and with me on the line is Dan Cox. He's our Chief Technical Officer, and Dan will be delivering most of the presentation this morning. As I mentioned, we've still got people joining us, so let's take a couple more minutes just to allow those to join, and then we'll get underway. Thank you. Thank you very much for your attendance at our webinar this morning. We're focusing on collaboration using interactive dashboards with Yellowfin BI. And let's get started. So before we, for those of you who haven't dealt with Data Transformed in the past, let's take a couple of minutes just to give you a little bit of background. So Data Transform's mission focuses on effective corporate performance management. From that perspective, corporate performance management is really all about allowing or enabling organisations to drive their organisational performance, their metrics, their KPIs, to achieve their goals and objectives. A key component, one component in that, is the visibility and highly visible performance metrics. And today we'll be focusing on the reporting and the dashboarding side of those. But it's not just about the technology, it's not just about having those great dashboards, it's then about engaging the audience within the organisation to talk about what those numbers mean, why performance is the way it is. And in reality, we talk about some three questions in that case. First and foremost, how are we doing as an organisation? What is our performance? And by displaying that information graphically on dashboards and in reports, it helps people have the ability to see trends, see performance over time, and in a snapshot, understand exactly how the business is performing. But that then drives the next question, which is why? Why is the business performing the way it is? Why is it the way above plan, below plan, whatever that case may be? Which then, through discussion and collaboration, results in a discussion about what should we be doing as an organisation to achieve our objectives. So in reality, that's what we'll be focusing on today, how we can use interactive dashboards to drive collaboration over what should we as an organisation do to achieve our objectives. So how does Data Transform go about approaching this? So really, our focus today will be on the yellow box on the right on the screen that you can see there, and that's really all about the visualisation, the reporting, and the dashboarding side of things. But to have confidence in those reports and to have confidence in what your organisation is reviewing, our approach is to get all of the different sources of information and data in a business from the various operational systems into a central repository or a central source of truth. From that, then the organisation can build that confidence in reporting, that confidence in the dashboarding layer. So what we'll be talking about today is predominantly about how we've worked with some of our customers. You can see some of the examples there, and some of the benefits that they have received from these styles of technologies, be they better business decisions, be it a massive reduction in the amount of work required to generate those reports, or an increase in insights inside their organisation as well. So So let's talk a little bit about the Yellowfin Business Intelligence tool, which we'll be using as a basis of our presentations today, and some of the reasons as to why our customers tell us that they choose Yellowfin as a basis for their reporting and dashboarding. From that perspective, I guess fundamentally the ease of use is the primary feedback that we get. So that's not just in terms of the users, though that's very, very important if you want organisational buy-in, but also in terms of a centralised architecture that gives the organisation or the back end, as they say, the opportunity to very easily and quickly update, get a dashboarding solution running and update it on an as required basis. And when we get to the technology, you'll see that it is 100% web enabled and integrated into all of your mobile devices, so you can view these reports not just on your computer but also on your tablet or your phone as well. So we'll use the technology itself to cover a lot of that off. But when we look at dashboarding, you'll notice some of the industry awards that Yellowfin has received indicates that its dashboarding capabilities are ranked by industry experts, but also most importantly by customers as being the leading. As you can see in the next slide, Yellowfin really stands out from the crowd when it comes to dashboarding capabilities, especially that in the cloud, so as to speak. So a couple of things to keep in mind, and at the end of this presentation, for everyone who's attended, we'll send through a few tips on some of the dashboarding best practices that Yellowfin has picked up over the years. But as you're viewing the presentation today, keep in mind some of the reasons why dashboards are becoming so popular as a tool for organisations to interrogate their data. Some of those examples there, just again, it's simpler, it's easier, it's more summarised version. And really our focus, as you'll see, is not really on what they traditionally in the industry called on the analysts or preparing data and getting it ready, but more in terms of the business users who are making decisions based on the information from within the dashboards, within the reports. And I was thinking, how do we want to focus on why we chose this particular topic for our webinars today? Well, this particular report indicates that dashboards, data visualization are some of the most important trends in business at the moment in terms of getting people the opportunity to be able to understand the information, the underlying information in their businesses. So again, just reiterating, I guess, that particular question, the particular point about the mobility of the performance of the platform. If you want to, you can log in, obviously, to this webinar, but also if you had these dashboards on any of your devices. So in a mobile world and a world where people are working on the go in different locations, the opportunity to be connected all the time really does give you that opportunity to keep going and to move your decision-making process much, much faster. Okay, so we'll focus a lot today on why you want to encourage or how you can encourage engagement and collaboration through the dashboards. We'll touch on some of the functionality and the features of how you do that, keeping in mind that the more collaboration you have over the reports, the more collaboration you have over the information that's being reported on, the better business decisions that are going to result as a consequence. So what I'll do now is pass over to Dan. As I mentioned, Dan Cox, our CTO, will be doing the presentation, who's going to start showing you through some of the capabilities of the technology.
Thanks a lot, Shane. Appreciate it. And yes, good afternoon, good morning, and good evening to some of you. Appreciate that everybody's joined us today. And I'd just like to start out by telling you right now that the entire presentation that we've done so far is actually in Yellowfin. So it already has the capability to do PowerPoint on the web. So you can log in wherever you are, do your board report, do your financial pack, your senior exec pack, and here it is already available for you. The other part to it is because it's a single platform and it's a part of Yellowfin already, the storyboarding, it means that I can actually add in multiple pieces of content and live content. So what you're looking at now is actually PowerPoint with live information. And I can see that we've got just a little bit of latency on the charts coming up, so I'll just make sure I'll try and slow down as far as speaking and changing. But you can see as I hover over any one of these particular bubbles on this bubble chart, we can get that information and see what's going on in the business right away, right in your actual presentation. And the great thing about storyboarding is it's not just horizontal, but it's also vertical. So you can have a particular subject area, and maybe it's very good at the high level, so we don't need to go into depth. But maybe in another subject, we'd have to actually go down vertically and get into some more detail. And in this case, I'm actually can say, well, I'm going to hover over and grab a particular area of this chart because it's quite consolidated in a particular area. So I'm going to drill down into that and take a look at that information. So now I have a better idea of that information once it's drilled down, and I can see what's going on. The other part to this is the fact that I can go ahead and expand my filters and decide to slice and dice this information. And maybe on demographics, I might want to focus in on a particular area of the business. In this case, I'm going to select the two types of camps, in this case, relaxation and family. And I can go ahead and filter that, and you can see now that the chart is completely updated. And it's live information, so we can see the latest results right away. And again, I might just show you another way we can drill down. In this case, I've actually added multiple pieces of content, and I'll just wait for the latency to come up. And we can see here that I've got multiple ways I can drill down. I'm going to go into my first chart to show you how we can interact with this information. And of course, I'm showing you charts, but you can put full reports inside of the storyboard, or multiple reports or multiple charts. And in this case, I've actually got a report that's showing me some key performance indicators. I've got some camps, I've got some KPIs, I've got some invoiced amounts, and I can enable them to start drilling down. So if I wanted to take a look at what's under Latin America and see the different countries inside of Latin America, and then start to drill down, I can drill down through Panama, let's say, and see the individual states or regions or camps in this case, and we can see that information. Also, what's quite nice is the fact that I've got the breadcrumbs up above, so if I wanted to jump back one spot, I could, and then go ahead and drill down on, let's say, Mexico and see that. Or even start over completely and go down a different drill path. The other part to this is I can go ahead and scroll over to the next subject area that I've got associated with this, and I can see here I've got a chart where I can see the height of the bar telling me how much I've actually invoiced, but I can then start to drill down. And in this case, I've actually set it up where I've got two separate different reports, one based on performance and one based off of revenue. And I can go ahead and click on one of those, and it's going to take that bar that as a filter and then tell me, in this case, all the European regions, what's been invoiced, and the performance in a ranked fashion. Of course, if I wanted to see the detail, I can go ahead and drill down on a separate report, the detailed report, and we can get that information. Of course, we can add as many reports as you like, and as vastly different as you need. So it really makes it very easy to go from one subject to another. And the last one I'm going to show you as far as interactive ability within inside the storyboard before we get into the main portion of our our demonstration is this particular chart. It's very nice because we're actually looking at two different metrics. Not only the height of the bar, but also the color of the bar. So, of course, the height means the more I've actually invoiced. The color, if I hover over it, actually tells me the profit margin. So the bluer the color, the more profit margin. The redder the color, the least amount of profit margin. So I'm actually getting quite a bit of information from this chart with actually the coloring. And also I've set this up where I can drill anywhere. So I've got all the different parameters that could make up this report, and I can see here I might want to say I want to take a look at, well, in Europe, I want to take a look at the different campaigns, and maybe I'll look at the actual campaign, and we can get a variety of that as it drills down. And we can see here maybe the ski press online has done quite well, but the profit margin isn't that great. So then I can start to drill down on that one as well, and maybe take a look at, well, who was the agency that actually was doing the majority of that, and see why. And we can see now that Thrill Seeker Winter Adventures is probably our greatest one, but has the least amount of profit margin. So maybe we should renegotiate their profit percentage on that. Okay. So I'll go ahead and jump in.
Thank you, Dan. Just what I might do now is, if everyone, based on what you've seen there, just pop up a quick poll question to get your feedback on the relevance of what we talked about there in terms of how you currently do your presentations. So just take a moment for people to respond there, and then we'll get back into it again. So, Dan, I think you mentioned there a little bit of latency. I think the performance actually is not bad.
Okay.
For those of you wondering, it's actually the web technology that's slowing down the display a little bit. The software itself is very, very, very fast. It's just been slowed a little bit by web speed by the look of it. So. I'll close that and pass back to yourself there, Dan, to go on to the dashboarding part of the presentation.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just closed my storyboard, and it brought me back to my dashboarding. So you can see here I've actually got a number of different dashboards along the top. And in this particular dashboard, it's what we call a monitoring type dashboard. So we can see in the very first chart there a number of yellow lines as well as a green line. These are actually annotations to the chart. So this is where I've actually decided to comment and make comments against a certain time frame and a certain area of the chart. The great thing about annotations is that it actually records that against that dimension and against that time. So if I create another report, those comments are actually available for that other report as well. So it's actually has the ability to know and associate comments that you add to a particular chart or report with that actual data, so it'll actually correlate with the data. In this case, you can see I've had a little bit of sales, and I decided to go ahead and make my marketing coordinator redundant, and of course the little sales that I did have completely dropped off. So then I decided later on I'm gonna hire a new one, and great, we can see that I've started to gain some sales, and my green bar over here, I've increased my marketing team by a number of people. So now we can see the benefit of that. I've got lots of sales coming in, and we're going gangbusters. Now the other thing about annotations is that you can make them as eyes only as well. So you can decide who can see these particular annotations. So you can make some private if you like. In the middle of this dashboard, we've actually set up what we call a scorecard with a number of KPIs. I've got an athlete's KPI here, a profit KPI, and a yearly invoice KPI. with a bit of a trend, so we get a little spark line of how things are tracking over time. That trend line can be changed from a single day to 6 months. But one of my tips is if you're going to have certain KPIs on a particular scorecard, then you probably should have the same trends, because if you look at one that's 6 months versus 6 weeks, you get a little bit confused. Also, then you are able to see your actuals, your target, your variance, the percent of target, and that performance, as well as, very important, when the last time the data was refreshed and it was ran. So we can see that our data is quite up to date and we're good to go. Also, if I want to tell and see the information underneath that, I could go ahead and drill down into the underlying report. That's going to show me a bit more detail. Now, this is a fairly simplistic report, but it gives me that information that I'm seeking, and that is it's by month. I've got the invoice amount, the profit margin, the percent, the number of athletes that have attended, and the KPI in the conditional formatting. Now, on this report, we can see if I wanted to, I could go ahead and export it. And we've got pretty much every type of export opportunity that you'd like, whether it's CSV to PDF to directly into Excel. And of course, an administrator can decide whether or not certain individuals can export this information out or just PDF it, etc. So it can be quite secure if you want to. Also, we could go ahead and share this, whether it's we want to distribute it or email it or actually embed it into another website or our internal network portal. We can do that as well. The great thing about emailing this is, of course, you can send it out as any number of ways, but the URL is unique, and it's a persistent URL, meaning that if I decide I need to go back in time and take a look at maybe about 6 months ago, a couple of the reports, and if I click on this report link that was 6 months ago, I'm actually going to open up the report as it was 6 months ago. So the comments that were sent out with this email will actually match the results that we're seeing. But the other thing is I can go ahead and refresh the report as I need to get the new information. Now that goes along with the ability to do what we call bookmarking. So yes, as an accountant myself, I used to go ahead and print out a whole bunch of reports or save PDFs in a file directory system somewhere every time I wanted to keep track. Well, Bookmark allows us to take a snapshot of a report at any time, and we can take as many as we like. And then we can go back and actually take a look at that particular bookmark and see that information. So I no longer have to keep track or take snapshots and keep PDFs separate in another file directory system and load up everything. I can go ahead and just take a bookmark, and of course we can go ahead and schedule a bookmark as well. So if you've got financial statements or certain reports that we want to see every week, every month, and take a snapshot of it, not a problem. We can go ahead and schedule that. Again, we can annotate this, and that means I can go ahead and annotate a particular cell at a particular time, and that information can be then saved against that particular set of information. But we also have collaboration for the entire report itself. So on the right hand side, I could go ahead and add a comment. I could say these are troubling results. Please investigate and get back to me. Now, I could go ahead and leave it as public, or I could go ahead and send it out just as for a particular person. And maybe I know that Gary's the person that I need to answer this question, so I'll say okay to that. He's going to go and that'll fire off an email to him, so he'll actually get that email with the link to this particular report, and he'll have to come back in and comment on that. The great thing about this as well is that it's not just about sending out information, but it's also interacting with that collaboration. So I've just sent out that email to Gary, and then he could actually come back in, reply to that, and he could also say, yep, it's a resolved. So I've actually made I've actually completed that task, if it were. So we can see that information and collate that information. So if you've got an expense report that needs to be justified, let's say if they've got overages or underages, significant underages, and it's a weekly report that the sales guys have to produce and add comments to, well, you can make them do that, whether it's on the report itself or as an annotation. But instead of having to come back in, you can subscribe to this report and see who has or who hasn't commented against this report. So that's just two ways we can collaborate within Yellowfin to analyze and act on information. So I'm going to come back to my dashboard again. And you can see as well that I've got multiple different ways of breaking up information by demographics, by gender, by region. And of course, if I scroll down, you can see that I've got other areas where I've broken up somewhat similar, and we can see that information very nicely. So what happens if I want to go ahead and analyze information? So here, I'm going to go to a dashboard that I've set up a whole bunch of different interactive capabilities. And in this case, this dashboard actually has 3 sub-dashboards. One for the athlete that we see now, one for agency, and one for market. And so we can then start to get an idea about the information that we're visualizing here. And again, you saw this bubble chart actually live inside of the storyboard, and if I go ahead and do something similar, drill down in that particular area, you can see that it's automatically filtered the rest of the dashboard as well, so I can get that information. And again, on the left hand side now, I can go ahead and open up my filters. I can decide whether or not I want to look at different years or sets of years, whether or not I want to look at different demographics, decide to filter on some of those. Now, something special about Yellowfin is the fact that it is already mobile enabled. So you don't have to publish it to an extra place to get it available on your mobile, whether it's your phone or tablet device, or what I'm actually using right now is the new Microsoft Surface, and I'm just using my finger to go ahead and move things around and reshape things. Now, one of the great things about Yellowfin is the fact that it thought about how it wanted to go ahead and publish and have things available for mobility. And you'll notice that it's got icons next to each one of those demographics. The blue skier for adventure, the purple it looks like polo with the relaxation, the yellow skier for family, etc. So I can decide to add an icon against each of those dimensions, and then that can be used across the entire application. So whenever I create a new report with demographics, those icons will be available. And then I can go ahead and not show the actual verbiage, so the names, because obviously this icon is going to be the same across the organization, so I don't have to take up space with the name or the category, so I can get that information right away. And what's great about that is that it takes up less real estate, so I don't have to see long areas. So I'll go ahead and again filter on a couple different things. And as we do that, I think Shane's popped up another quick poll. So I'll let you go ahead and do that.
Thank you, Dan. We'll give everyone just a moment or two to respond there. Again, just to give us a little bit of background, a little bit of information on the interest and the requirements for everyone. Okay, just another second or two, and then we'll carry on. Great, thank you, Dan. Back to you.
No problem. So you can see here as well, if we wanted to, we can make things quite unique and interactive and very friendly. So here I've got a few of the Tweety birds up with different statistics around, as well as a live chart. As you can see here, I can hover over and get information and see that information as well. So it's quite nice to be able to do that. Again, the nice thing about having dashboards versus sub dashboards is that the filters that we decide to take a look at go across the different sub tabs. So I can decide maybe I want to take a look at those two, and it'll pass those filters across each of the sub dashboards. And you can see that it's filtered across, so we can get that information quite quickly and see how things interact. Of course, dashboarding wouldn't be dashboarding without the ability to get information by location. And Yellowfin has many different ways of mapping things, so we can do different raster maps, area maps, as well as 2 specific Google Maps. And as I scroll down, you can see the one on the right-hand side is actually a GIS Google map. So if we've got latitudes and longitudes or GIS codes, we can create a Google map within a number of seconds. Literally, I can create a report with latitudes and longitudes within about 30 seconds. So you can see here that I've got the ability to drill down, and of course, because it is Google Maps, you can go all the way down to street level as well, in street view. But with the capabilities of Yellowfin, it's not just location per se as far as a map is concerned, geographic map, but you can create any sorts of maps. And we've done things like casino game floors. We've done warehouses, so we can see how somebody actually picks versus how they were supposed to pick. We've done anatomy as well, so you can see the different common areas of injuries for professional sports, etc. So it's quite versatile to be able to do that, and very easy as well. So again, mapping, the statistic is about 85% of all data has some form of location intelligence with it. So the ability to see where your customers are, where your vendors are, where the potentials to have customers are is very great and easy to see when you've got a mapping capability like the maps like this. So the last dashboard I might just slightly go over is called our series selection. Now this one's quite unique as well, because what we've done and how you'll notice is that everything on the screen is blue. And I don't need a legend, because I know that everything, whenever I see blue, in this particular blue, I know it's invoiced amount. And this is great because I can then, across the organization, decide that this particular color is always going to be invoice associated with invoice amount, so I don't actually need a legend taking up space. So right away I can see that information, and of course if I wanted to filter in on a particular area, and in this case I've got a scrolling time bar that I can slice and filter in on. And you can see that it's filtered the rest of the dashboard as well. So once I've done that, I could go ahead and say, well, I want to see what the cost is. So I can switch, and you'll see and notice as well that everything is green. So right away, I know that I'm looking at cost. Or if I wanted to look at profit, right away it's yellow or yellowish orange, and I can say, yep, I know without a legend taking up real estate on my mobile phone, on my tablet, on my iPad, my Android device, I don't need it, because I know this is the company standard. This color always represents profit. And the great thing about that is if you decide to allow some of your staff and employees to self-service, create their own reports, when they create the reports, it'll automatically take this color by default. Yes, you can allow them to go ahead and change the color, but by default, it'll come out the color that you want across the company standard, which is a great thing to be able to then start to make sure that your reports are all consistent. In talking about consistency, when we print out reports, we can set up headers and footers for every single report so that you can see that it comes out with your particular name and logo for each of the reports, and that can be standardized across the board. One of the last areas I'm going to show you for collaboration is what's called our discussion groups. So Yellowfin is actually set up basically a blog site inside of Yellowfin itself. But it's more than that because we can actually set up different topics. So here I've got a topic for data quality, for finance, for customer direction, for telecommunications. And each one of these, I can invite different people into the group to participate. But I can also set up different timelines as well. So you can see in my discussion group, I've got 3 different members and multiple different posts and a few different pieces of content. Now the great thing again, because it's all one platform, if I drag in a chart in this case, when I click on it to see that underlying information, it is live, but again it's going to be persistent, so it's going to show me the results of that chart as it was when that person wrote the comments, so I can understand what they were looking at that particular time. But of course then I can go ahead and refresh that information if I want to and get the new information. Okay. The great thing about discussion groups isn't just that we can focus in on a particular subject area, but you can also set up things like proposals, what we need to actually do, and also create decisions. So based on proposals, we can make decisions and track those proposals as well as the decisions over time. So we see how we're actually making decisions as well as how we're changing the methodology and how we think over time. And that really makes a lot of sense when we start to look at how we decided to look at analytics a year ago versus today, and how we're utilizing the information differently and hopefully better. Great.
Thanks, Dan. Just I'd take the opportunity there just to also, now that we've covered off some of the collaboration capabilities as well as the interactivity of the reports and the dashboards, just to get a little bit of feedback about how people are primarily or the primary method of reporting within the organisations. For the people on the call today, appreciate some feedback there. Thank you very much. Okay.
Excellent. So the last dashboard I wanted to show is the ability to drill and the different methodologies that we can drill. So I've already shown you a few of those through the slide presentation, but before I do that, we can see on the left-hand side, which makes it really nice and user-friendly for individual consumers, is the ability to have favorites. So here I've marked a few different reports as my favorites, so I don't have to go searching for those. I can go ahead and just see them right here and go ahead and run them. Also, if I'm a creator or a report developer, or even a self-service consumer that can create ad hoc reports, I've got another section where it's just my drafts, where I've started a report but yet haven't finished it or haven't activated it for other people to actually see. So you can see there I'm working on 5 different reports, and I could go to any one of those and continue on without having to go to a directory system and try and find that particular report that I was working on. And the last area is the ability to see what I've just recently opened up. And as you can see there, I opened up that agency benchmark through the discussion group, as well as one of the reports for the athletes. Okay. So that makes navigation and interaction through Yellowfin very easy. Again, we have multiple ways to see information through a dashboard. In this case, I can go ahead and drill down on a particular area. I might want to drill down on Asia in 2014 to see the underlying information for that. And you'll see that it's actually grouped in multiple different ways, so I can get that information and start to see the detail. Again, this is a more detailed report. I could show the filters if I wanted to, so we can see there that I've actually filtered on a particular year and the particular camp region. Again, all the areas for commentary are available, as well as annotation and bookmarking. And as you can see, as I scroll down, for any of these charts, we might decide that we might want to drill and see some different information. So in this case, I might want to see the different camp countries. And if I wanted to convert to the actual pivot table underlying data, Yellowfin gives that a very easy switch. So here, as I'm highlighting, I can switch to the actual grid and see the information that's underlying that particular chart, which makes it very easy for us to see the real data, and even the interactive ability to drill down is still available. So if I wanted to drill on a different agency type, you can see that, and then I could go ahead and flip back to the chart. So all of that is available within Yellowfin, and as you can see, it has multiple different ways that we can chart information, whether it's analytical or statistical type information or financial information. One of the last things that really is quite nice about Yellowfin is the ability to browse all of your reports. And these reports allows us multiple ways to actually look at the information. So here I'm actually looking at the folder structure, but if you can't remember where you've actually saved that information or saved that particular report, we can actually see the thumbnails of that information and see, well, I remember it's this marketing agenda because that's how it looked. So I can go ahead and select that report and view that information. So it makes it very easy to actually get the information that you need. Shane also mentioned about the centralized administration, and I'll just touch on just a couple things within the centralized administration. So I'm going to go to the admin console, and we can see that everything that we pretty much need to do within Yellowfin, whether it's connecting to different data sources, setting up views of those data sources, whether or not it's editing user access or the types of roles that people do, but also getting information and analytics within the administration. So here I've got 8 Yellowfin users out of a possible 10,000. I've got a really good license, as you can see. And I can also see the unique logins in the last 30 days. I've got 33 unique logins, which means that a number of people are logging in on a regular basis, and it's not just 1 or 2 people utilizing the software. Well, I can also see that I'm accessing 17 of our 22 dashboards. So that means 5 of the dashboards might not actually be used that often or that frequently. So it might mean that I could go ahead and remove those, or at least disable them, and start to clean up the system. Because of course, with self-service, there are always going to be lots of ad hoc reports that people create, and some of them become standard reports, and some of them were just a once-off. And on the last statistic there, you can see that I've got 14 red reports out of 207. So really, that I can get some more detailed information about what actually reports have been seen, etc. And that just really makes administration and, of course, maintenance of Yellowfin and the Yellowfin experience very easy and robust.
Fantastic. Thanks, Dan. What I might do now is just, again, source some feedback from everyone on the line in terms of the number of what we call data sources, or the types of systems that you would like to report on. So these are the different operational systems in your business. They could be things like a CRM system. It could be some your general ledger or accounting systems. It could be any of the operational systems that you use in your business. It could be spreadsheets. It could be ad hoc databases that have been created over the years. Just just looking for some feedback there. Subsequent to this poll question, we'll then go to the question and answer section of today's webinar. So I think we've got the feedback there. So if anyone would like to raise a question or ask anything at this time, feel free to type that into the questions dialog box, and we'll take a moment to respond to those. Okay, so just waiting for people to have the opportunity to type in their questions there. So the first question, following on, I think, from the poll we just had there about data sources, the question is, how easy or difficult is it to extract information from systems like CRM systems and like accounting systems and report on that in Yellowfin? So, Dan, did you want to address that query?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very good question. So there are actually two different ways to answer that question. If we were to jump back to that initial solution map where Shane discussed multiple different sources and a single source of truth, that single source of truth or a repository is really where you do a lot of your extracts out from a CRM system or an ERP system or a POS system. And especially if you've got multiple systems, such as a lot of you probably do have at least one of two of those. You might even have a logistics or some Excel files, etc. So really being able to pull that information into a single repository, being able to make relationships between the CRM system and your ERP system, relationships between your ERP system and the POS system as well as your CRM system, and be able to pull that through into Yellowfin makes it very robust and very thorough and have the access across your entire organization. However, Yellowfin can go direct to a ERP such as Dynamics Nav or JD Edwards and pull that information out. Yellowfin actually doesn't pull information out. It actually just reads the information. So we can set up a view of, let's say, the sales area for Oracle, let's say, or Dynamics AX. And be able to get that information and do reports off of it. So attaching to an ERP, yes, you can definitely do that through Yellowfin. You can set up a view for a particular area of your ERP and then read that information. So in that regards, Yellowfin would actually be live information because it would continue to read the information directly from your CRM or ERP system. Now, what that doesn't do is allow us the ability to connect, let's say, a CRM and your ERP into one solution. So you'd be able to go across those two sources, as well as the ability to pull in, let's say, some Excel files that you've got data on for historical purposes. Hopefully that answered your question. If it doesn't, go ahead and get in contact with us or reiterate another question to us. Thanks.
Thank you, Dan. So the next question now would be regarding the bookmarks that you showed before, and specifically, how does someone go about managing bookmarks within the system?
That's a very, very good question. So there are a couple ways that you can actually manage those. So within the admin console, you do have the ability to see all bookmarks that have been created, and if you want, you can have the ability to cull those. Most of the time, it is kind of a self-service bookmarking, uh, so. And a bit more of a self-regulating, I suppose. But you can actually turn on or off whether or not somebody can bookmark. So based off of their role that you give them, whether or not they can create a report, whether or not they can delete a report, whether or not they can see a particular area, it also has the functionality to turn on or off whether or not a particular person or groups of person can set bookmarks. So you can either turn on and off the ability to bookmark, or they can self-regulate by deleting some of the old ones or multiple ones that they don't need, or the administrator can see all of the bookmarks and go ahead and cull them as well. You can also set up a task or a scheduled task to delete older ones if you wanted to. So maybe you only want to keep the last 12 months of bookmarks, let's say. You could set something up like that as well, where it actually cull older than 12 months bookmarks. Excellent. Good question. That's the first time I've ever had someone ask that particular question. Great one.
Thank you, Dan. Next question now is a question about how easy is it to create reports? Obviously, today we've been focusing on the pre-made dashboards. So did you want to talk a little bit about report creation and ad hoc reporting?
Yeah, absolutely. How about instead of just talking about it, I'll actually show you. We've got a couple minutes anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and say create a new report. Okay, and again, based off of somebody's role and whether or not you give them permissions or not, they'll be able to create a report. Now I'm actually opening up where I can select the different views. So this is our connections to different data sources and the view of that different data source. So you can see that I've got multiples of those. Most of the time we are going to create a report based off of drop and drag. But if you really wanted to, and if you've got some very advanced report developers, they could go ahead and write their own SQL or MDX, etc., or even pull in Microsoft Reporting Services reports. So it is quite flexible, but we'll go ahead and show how easy it is by utilizing the drop and drag filter. And I'll have to say that most of the time, probably 99 out of 100 times, I'll use drag and drop because it has just about everything you would ever need. So what we've got here is on the left-hand side, I can see all the different areas of this particular view and data set. On the right-hand side is a preview of the report and where I'm going to drag and drop that information. So maybe I want to take a look at athletes, maybe their first name and last name. So I can drag in their first name and their last name. And I might want to take a look at how much they've been invoiced. So I'll drag in my invoice amount and maybe whether or not I've got a profit margin as well. So I'll grab profit margin. Okay. So literally, if that was all you were after, your report's pretty much done. All you need to do is save it and use it. But of course, there are a lot of different things you can do here. You can go ahead and format this to your heart's content, change the font, the colors, do conditional formatting. You can do subtotals, etc. But what I might do is actually show you how easy it is also to create a report with a chart. And in this case, we're going to create a map. So I'm going to drag in the latitudes and longitudes that I've got. And you can see here my next available option there is charts. So I can actually click on charts. It'll take me to the chart wizard area. And as I start dragging information into the charting area, it'll actually try and automate that and create a report that it thinks is probably the best type of report form or chart for me. So as I do that, you can see it's already started to create a report for me, but in this case, it's not the type of chart that I want. Okay, so I'm going to change the chart, and I'm going to scroll down, and as you can see, there are many different charts available: analytics, areas, bars, columns, combinations, financials, lines, meters, pies, special purpose, and they're always continuing to add new and wonderful ways to do charting. But I'm going to go ahead and select the first Google Map type chart, so I'm going to go ahead and select that one. And of course, it has multiple different areas there. You can see right away, this is where I need to drag my latitude. This is where I need to drag my longitude. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Drag my latitude, drag my longitude. I'm going to drag in my amounts. Maybe a description. Now you can see right away, I can get that information. Okay. I could go to my output, and I can continue to format this any way I like to add in or remove the pivot table. I might remove the pivot table for now, and then I can go ahead and activate that, save it, and it'll be available for anybody that we'd like to view it. So that's really as difficult as it needs to get. Of course, you can do lots of different calculations in it, lots of statistical calculations. So I might just jump back there and show you that as well. So if I go back to the data set, and if I select this, you can see I can start to aggregate it. I can aggregate it by different set methods, but I also can do some advanced functions as well. So if I click on the advanced functions, you can see here I can do different things like a cumulative percent, bottom ranking, top ranking, deltas from the last time period, deviations, divisions by different columns, percentages of total. Yeah, so there's a lot of different statistical type functions, as well as, those are analysis. We've also got statistical functions. So deviation, linear regression, mean, etc. So if you wanted to add a trend into it, you could. We've also got different texts. In this case, I've only got concatenation for the type of column that I've actually selected. Okay. So there's many vast ways that we can add a calculation or do some advanced analysis. Great. So how is that an answer to your question, how easy it is to create a report?
I'm sure it was fantastic. Thanks, Dan. I appreciate that. We haven't got any other questions at the moment, so I think we're about out of time as well. So let's wind it up there. So as a summary from the feedback, it appears as though people are generally on the call are interested in the mobility side of things that we've showed, and a lot of people are still using spreadsheets by the look of it for their reporting. So hopefully not just the dashboarding, but the collaboration tools that we have highlighted today could be of benefit for people, and hopefully there was some value there. So I'd like to say thank you very much, and we really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to attend the webinar. We will send out for all of those who attended some tips on the best practices when it comes to working with dashboards, and you can expect someone from Data Transform to get in touch and answer any other questions that you may have over the coming days. So thank you again. We very much appreciate it, and we'll let everyone get back to their day now. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.